This morning, just for fun, I Googled creativity. There were over 539 million responses. To give you some idea, weight loss doesn't have half that. Now, don't get me wrong, sex is still way in the lead, but you get the idea. Creativity is a hot topic, and it's generating a great deal of discussion across boardrooms, offices, and studios alike. While each of us has been born with the innate capacity to be creative, sadly for many people, somewhere along the way, they got the mistaken idea that they just weren't creative, and they stopped giving their most unique and amazing cognitive gifts the time and attention it deserves. For the past 30 years, I've been working as an artist and teacher, focusing on the visual arts, the creative process, and art history. I've been driven by a desire to understand the conditions that are conducive to fostering creativity, both in my own life and the lives of my students, and then to use that information to help people identify their unique creative voice and express their ideas in unique and powerful ways. And what I've found is that the conditions that are conducive to fostering creativity in the studio are those that foster it across all realms, whether in business, academic classrooms, on the field, at home, and more. One of the benefits of having been at this endeavor for a long period of time is that I've been able to witness incredible change, growth, and progress. It's also, though, put me in a position where I'm now aware of some disturbing trends that are having a detrimental effect on people and their ability to be creative. Overwhelm, distraction, anxiety, and an inability to focus for an extended period of time. And that's unfortunate. But fortunately, I've also been able to discern a number of antidotes to these creativity killers. And despite the myth that some people are creative and others just aren't, creativity is a series of attitudes and actions that are deceptively simple, often counterintuitive, and definitely run in contrast to our current cultural conditioning. What I'd like to do in the brief time that we have together is to share with you 3 actions that each one of us can take to foster creativity. A few years ago, I was working with one of my classes, and I had just read them a section out of a book that's called Ignore Everybody and 39 Other Keys to Creativity, written by a man named Hugh MacLeod. The passage was about the fact that each one of us has our own private Mount Everest to scale, and that this metaphorical Mount Everest could be anything. It could be raising a family, starting a business, painting, inventing, whatever. He said that while you might not reach the summit, you will at least usually get above the snow line, spend time on the mountain, and have the satisfaction of knowing that you tried, which is, of course, much better than dealing with the regret of an abandoned dream. We'd finished the piece and we're starting to discuss its meaning and relevance when one of the young women, who's normally very quiet, blurted out, "I have a confession to make. I want to be a fashion designer." It was like she was confessing to a crime. She went on with a tirade of, YouTube videos she subscribes to, fashion ideas that she sketched out for eco and sustainable fashion. All a deep, dark secret that she had kept hidden from everyone. This was a creative field that somehow she had convinced herself she was incapable of entering. Everything changed that day. Within a period of months, she was actually sewing her own creations. She had completed a portfolio of works that she used to apply to a very prestigious fashion school in Paris. And not only had she been accepted, but she was actually awarded a substantial scholarship. And when I share this story with people, they're like, "Wow, that's such a miracle." But it isn't really, not in my experience. It's wonderful to be sure, but it's not a miracle. It's the result when intention and passion and courage align with action. And I've been most fortunate to see this pattern repeat hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. But I think it's at this initial point of intention that many people turn their back on their passion, on their creativity. They mistakenly believe that they should leave these big, sexy ideas to people more capable and creative than themselves. They fail to realize that creativity is a skill, and like all skills, it can be fostered and developed, coached over time. Now, fortunately, this is a decision that each one of us can make today. We can decide to be more creative. We can set the intention to show up as more creative teachers, more thoughtful artists and designers, more innovative leaders of people, a more visionary school district that paves the way for what education could become. Everything starts with intention. I love this quote. And personally, I would be remiss if I gave a talk on creativity and didn't pay homage to two of my extraordinary life mentors, Michelangelo Buonarroti and Leonardo da Vinci. Not only have they taught me a lot about creativity and the creative process, but also about how to live our lives. They've left us an extraordinary legacy through the ideas that they penned, the works that they left behind, and the stories of their lives. I could go on and on, but I won't. One of my friends teased me saying, you're the only woman I know who keeps falling in love with men who died over 500 years ago. She might be right. There are worse things, though. But in all seriousness, I think the ideas that they expressed are as relevant today as when they penned them in the Renaissance, and I hope that they inspire you as well. Last year, I conducted one of the most extreme experiments that I've ever done in education. It was an experiment brought about by desperation, actually. A troubling number of my students were failing to reach major deadlines with quality work, failing to produce on a conceptually deep level or to the depth that I was used to seeing. And perhaps most importantly, they were failing to experience the joy of connecting deeply with their passion area. Getting into that state of flow where they would lose all track of space and time. It's a disturbing trend that I've seen growing over the years. The experiment was called the Media Cleanse Challenge. Essentially, a 2-month ban on technology use that wasn't directly linked to their creative output. It meant that technology could be used as a tool for creation and sharing their creative efforts, but not as a vehicle for consumption. That meant outside of essential communication, no texting, no social media, no video games, no TV, no internet. Yes, it was extreme. While on the outside it appeared to be what I wanted them to experiment with taking out of their life, it was actually much more about what I was having them experimenting with putting back in. I wanted them to experience large blocks of time where they could engage with their creative process in an undistracted environment. Quality time with family and their real-life friends. Time to connect with nature and the world around them, mindfully. I also wanted them to realize that they had a choice about the degree to which they let technology into their lives. The experiment was optional, but highly recommended. 58 of 60 students chose to participate, as did I. I had the students write daily reflections in their sketchbooks. I was very curious about what was going to happen. This definitely was an experiment. I also had them submit reflections to me every 2 weeks. We also had a prize draw every 2 weeks. It was based on an honor system. For every day that you spent true to the spirit of the challenge, you could enter your name in the draw. I can honestly tell you as an educator, it was one of the most profound things I've ever done, and it broke my heart. While I was abundantly aware that the toll, distraction, and overwhelm was having on their artistic output, I hadn't really considered how it was impacting their lives overall. Their ability to, experience life in the moment and really savor it, and in turn feel that they were connecting and being heard by others. One day I asked one of the young women how she was doing, and she said, "Not very good. I realized nobody really listens to me." Creativity depends on our ability to be attentive. And attention is a form of listening. It's listening with all of our senses. It's listening to our thoughts, listening to our imagination. And it's this, I always encourage my students, notice what you notice. Because each one of us has our unique take on the world, right? And it's these unique impressions registered through our attention that are the fodder of our creativity. And it's our precious attention that's under attack. Attack in the form of incessant distraction and an avalanche of information. And we've known this is coming for a long time. Way back in 1977, Herbert Simon, a Nobel-winning economist, warned us by saying, "In an information-rich world, the wealth of information results in a dearth of something else, a scarcity of whatever it is that information consumes. What information consumes is rather obvious. It consumes the attention of its recipients. Hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention." As it turns out, we really can have too much of a good thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying technology is the devil. What I am saying is that technology represents a series of tools that are incredibly powerful and addictive, and that we really haven't had much guidance or instruction as to how to use these super tools in our lives in safe and productive manners. It's kind of like we've missed the first step. Can you imagine a shop teacher that just encourages students to give it a go with the table saw? Or how about a painting instructor that doesn't talk about the fact that cadmium pigments are known carcinogens? Or a foods teacher that doesn't mention the potential burns associated with ovens and elements? Now you might say, okay, those are poor comparisons to make because you're not likely to lose life or limb through the use of your cell phone or your computer. But I beg to differ. What you stand to lose is your ability to be present and attentive and engaged in the moments of our lives as they unfold. And it's these trivial seeming moments that are the gateway to everything that's most critical to our experience and enjoyment of life. The quality of our relationships, the formation of our ideas, the development of enduring memories, and of course, our ability to be creative. Effective creators of the future must learn to be effective gatekeepers of their attention. This can be done through a variety of ways. We can be more discerning with the flow of information that's coming into our lives. We can train our minds to be present in the moment through mindfulness and meditation. And we can eliminate as many distractions as possible, particularly during key hours set aside for creation. So now what? You've set the intention to be more creative. You've started to hone your intention. The next phase is to get very active with the stage of creation. This is time for invention. And a great place to start is to develop a system to capture your ideas as they're happening throughout the day. Observations, inspirations, ideas. And this is where technology can really help us and support our creativity. There's a reason why, artists keep sketchbooks and creators in all sectors keep notebooks and journals. My husband, who's a musician, uses a digital sound recorder to record compositional and conceptual music ideas. Another thing that we can do is set aside sacred time in our schedule on a daily or weekly basis that's set aside as a time to work with the raw materials that we've amassed during the week. This is the time to experiment, to play, distill, question, synthesize. I love what Leonardo says here. Happen to things. Happen to things. It's often at this phase, though, that people get a bit overwhelmed, right? There's so many options. You can go in so many directions. And what I always encourage people to do is, as well, this is a good time to restrict your options. Less is truly more here, and you'll usually find that your creativity will flourish with constraints. So rather than working with a full palette of colors, choose one, and interesting pairings or combinations. The same could be done with a spice, a bar of musical notes, a phrase, a word, an educational concept. You know, it's a challenge, in a way, to deal with a topic as broad and deep as creativity in an 18-minute talk. But what I can assure you is that by making a few small changes, we can grow our creative capacity. We can start by setting a clear intention to be more creative. We can start becoming more mindful to the moments in our lives as they unfold. And we can set aside and utilize time for creation and invention. Through these focused actions of intention, attention, and invention, not only will we experience greater joy in our lives, experiencing more moments of meaning, purpose, and freedom, but we will dramatically impact our odds of creating a truly creative outcome. And I hope you'll go and do exactly that. Thank you.